Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at quite an interesting document set.
Yeah, centered around Executive Order 13152.
Exactly. Think of this as, well, your guide to understanding a pretty significant policy move.
We're really going to try and unpack this one. It was signed January 20th, 2025, published a bit later, January 29th.
And the title really sets the stage. Holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information.
It sounds serious, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And it definitely points to some specific events.
It does. The order itself mentions two main catalysts. First, there's this letter.
Oh, the one from 2020, with the former intelligence official.
That's the one. At least 51 signatories. The order suggests it was meant to discredit reporting about President Biden's son's laptop.
Kind of hinting it was what? Russian disinformation.
Precisely. That's the allegation laid out in the order.
Yeah, I remember that letter. It caused quite a stir. So many, experienced intel people weighing in on something so political.
It definitely raised eyebrows, as you say, and the executive order goes further.
How so?
It alleges there was coordination between these officials and the Biden campaign.
Wow, okay, coordination.
And it claims the letter falsely presented the laptop story as Russian disinformation.
So not just an opinion piece, but actively misleading, according to the order.
That's the assertion. And what's really notable is that the order states this letter went through the CIA's pre-publication classification review board.
Wait, so the PCRB saw it? Meaning senior CIA folks knew about it.
Apparently so. And it adds that many signatories still held security clearances.
And had ongoing ties to the CIA.
Right.
Okay, that adds another layer.
Right. It's not just about former officials voicing opinions. The order frames it as using their past status.
Leveraging that authority, maybe? Their insider knowledge?
That seems to be the concern.
Like if your trusted old professor suddenly starts writing campaign ads, you listen differently. Right. It carries weight.
That's a good way to put it. The order uses strong language. It says this: weaponize the gravitas of the intelligence community.
Weaponize gravitas. That's
From
meta.
life to manipulate politics, undermine democratic institutions. It even calls it an egregious breach of trust reminiscent of a third world country.
Oh, strong stuff. It suggests this damaged faith in other intelligence professionals, too.
Yes, that's the implication, that it could erode public trust when people with that kind of background seem to act in partisan ways.
It really makes you think about the weight we give certain voices and, well, what happens if that trust feels misplaced?
Absolutely. Now, the second big issue tackled in the order.
That would be John Bolton's book.
Correct. His memoir, published after he left as National Security Advisor in 2019.
Yeah, that book definitely made waves. What's the order's specific issue with it?
It says the book contained sensitive information drawn from his time in government.
Okay, sensitive info. Not necessarily classified, but sensitive.
Or both. The order uses the term sensitive, but the context implies potential classification issues too, and it alleges it was published for monetary gain.
Ah, the money aspect.
Right. The core concern stated is this reckless treatment of sensitive information.
And the worry is
What?
that it harms national security directly.
That's part of it, the risk of exposure.
Yeah.
But also, it argues it undermines the ability of future presidents to get candid advice.
Because advisors might worry their confidential discussions could end up in a tell-all book.
Exactly. It chills that necessary trust.
It's such a tough balance, isn't it? The public's interest in knowing how government works versus the real need to protect certain information.
It is. And then you add the profit motive.
Yeah, that definitely muddies the waters, as they say.
And this order seems to come down firmly on the side of protecting the information and that presidential counsel process.
Okay, so based on those two main examples, the letter and the book, what policy does the order actually set up? Section 2?
Right. Yes. Section 2 lays out the policy. First, it states a policy of the U.S. to ensure the intelligence community isn't involved in partisan politics.
Keeping the IC neutral.
And not used for electioneering by campaigns. It defines the intelligence community by referencing the law, Section 3003 of Title 50 U.S. Code.
Okay, and for those of us without the U.S. Code handy, who are we talking about? The big agencies.
Pretty much. It includes the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, CIA, NSA, DIA, FBI.
Usual suspects.
And the intelligence branches of the military services, State Department, Treasury, Homeland Security. It's a wide net.
Got it. So keep all those players focused on intelligence, not politics. It's like trying to keep the refs from wearing team jerseys,
That's a fair analogy. The goal is impartiality in their function.
Makes sense. What's the next policy point?
Second, individuals with government security clearances shouldn't use that status to influence U.S. elections.
Okay, that seems pretty direct. Your clearance gives you access and trust. Don't wield it like a political tool.
That's the principle. It's about separating the official role and its privileges from personal political activity.
Right. Undermines the whole point of clearances otherwise.
Yeah.
And the third policy.
This one tackles the memoirs directly. It's policy against publicly disclosing classified information in memoirs.
Especially, I'm guessing, if it's for personal financial gain.
Explicitly mentioned, yes, especially for monetary gain.
So it really tightens the rules on what former officials can write about and why they're writing it.
It suggests a focus not just on what is disclosed, but the motivation behind it.
Interesting. Okay, so those are the policies. How does the order actually make this happen? What's the implementation in Section 3?
Well, first, it's effective immediately. January 20th, 2025, the day it was signed.
No grace period.
No. And the big action item, it directs the Director of National Intelligence working with the CIA director to revoke security clearances.
Revoke them? For whom?
For 50 named individuals. The list includes John Bolton and the signatories of that 2020 letter.
All of them.
Well, all except 2 who are noted in the order as being deceased. But yes, 50 active revocations mandated.
That is a very decisive action.
Right.
Revoking a clearance isn't trivial. It hits careers, future work.
It's a significant consequence, absolutely, not just a slap on the wrist, as you said earlier.
Definitely not. What else does Section 3 do?
It also requires a report. Within 90 days, the DNI needs to give a report to the president via the National Security Advisor.
90 days. Okay, what's in the report?
Several things. First, details on any other inappropriate activity within the IC related to that 2020 letter.
So looking beyond just the letter itself,
Yeah.
any ripple effects or related conduct.
Seems so. Second, recommendations to prevent the IC or its affiliates from inappropriately influencing domestic elections going forward.
The preventative measures.
Yeah.
Trying to stop this from happening again.
Right. And third, it asks for recommendations on any further disciplinary action.
For conduct related to the letter, like potentially more clearance revocations.
That's certainly implied as a possibility.
Yeah.
Or other actions.
So it sounds like the order is trying to address these past incidents very directly, but also set up clearer rules or guardrails for the future.
That sums it up well. It has both backward and forward-looking elements.
Okay. And then there's a Section 4, general provisions, anything key in there?
Mostly standard stuff for EOs.
Yeah.
It clarifies it doesn't impair the legal authority of other agencies or OMB.
Standard boilerplate, kind of.
Often, yes. It also notes implementation is subject to the law and available funding.
So it has to work within the existing system, no blank checks or overriding laws.
Correct. And, importantly, it explicitly states the order doesn't create any legally enforceable rights.
Meaning, people can't just sue the government based only on this order.
That seems to be the intent. It's framed as an internal executive branch directive, not something creating new rights for outside parties to enforce in court.
Got it. Okay, so let's recap quickly. EO 14152 focuses on what it calls election interference, the 2020 letter, and improper disclosure, like Bolton's book.
Right. It sets policies. Keep the IC nonpartisan, don't use clearance status politically, don't put classified info in memoirs for profit.
And the big actions. Revoke 50 clearances immediately and get a report in 90 days on related issues, future prevention, and maybe more discipline.
That's the core of it.
It certainly makes you think hard about the responsibilities that come with access and influence, and what happens when trust is perceived to be broken.
It does. And it forces us, and you listening, to consider the implications, the relationship between former officials, the intelligence world, and our political process. It's delicate.
So thinking about that bigger picture, what are the potential long-term effects here? Could this really change things?
Well, one possibility is former intelligence officials might become more hesitant.
Hesitant to speak out on political topics, even if they have relevant expertise.
Perhaps. The risk of losing clearances or other repercussions outlined here might create a chilling effect. We could also see much stricter pre-publication reviews for memoirs.
Making it harder to publish those kinds of insider accounts.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Or at least increasing the legal risks for authors and publishers if they cross lines regarding sensitive or classified information without approval.
And the ultimate impact on public trust.
That's the big question, isn't it? It likely depends on how consistently this order is applied, whether it's seen as fair or political itself, and just the broader climate of trust in government institutions.
Yeah. And for you listening, maybe mull this over. How could this change the public voice of former intel officials? Is there a trade-off between protecting secrets and the public's desire, maybe even need, to understand governance?
What are the ripple effects for trust, not just in the IC, but maybe in the whole political system? Lots to consider.
Definitely food for thought.
It is. Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we explore another significant piece of policy.